Like, exactly. I'm just kidding you. That's okay.
So anyway, good questions though, fun questions. Again, I'm Bill Gallagher. I'm project architect. I'm also the project principal in charge. I am registered architect.
Exactly. I'm just kidding you. That's okay.
Oh, sorry. So anyway.
You're good.
Okay. So I'm the project manager on this project. And the reason I'm a project manager is because obviously there's guys that are better at doing their work than what I am. In that I'm better at orchestrating, being client contact, understanding what your needs are, and making sure it gets done. As a project manager, I'm more responsible for the overall commitment to Laketran and making sure that's being followed on a regular basis. Not only that, we do have a group of guys here. You see on the right-hand side, there's a Chris DeLuca who are looking at being involved in construction services. He had a prior commitment today, so unfortunately he cannot make it, but be assured he's committed to the job 110% also. And if we need more than this, and we do need more than this, we get into the pre-construction services, we need additional support. Tech is going to provide that. When it comes to pre-construction services and looking at the drawings, we have additional resources. Plus we have the staff in here that's looking at it. So my job is to make sure we have enough resources to get it done. And if this team can't, my job is to bring more people in. Whatever is needed to get this job done, keep it on schedule, and obviously keep it within budget. Now, I could talk to you great things about these guys, but I'm gonna let them say hi to you themselves, and we're just gonna follow the order on the screen, not particularly how we are up here.
So I'm first.
Pete.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us today. I'm Pete Fermika. I'm civil engineer, registered civil engineer. Live in Wycliffe, born and raised. I've been with CT Consultants for 36 years now. So Frank hired me. In fact, I bought some of Frank's shares. Sold out when he retired. I've worked with Andrea and Ben and all you guys for Laketran, done a lot of projects. Just something about myself, when I was in, I don't know, I think it was high school. One teacher said, find a job where when you go, it's not going to work every day. You're just having fun. Some sucker's paying me. Not sucker, not you guys, the company, excuse me. But, I enjoy my job so much that it's fun to me. And I love doing things like that. As you all know, working with Laketran on other projects, our giant propane tank to our chargers to the Wycliffe sites. It's just fun to me. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to work with you guys again.
Great. I'm Tim Poole from Tech Incorporated. I started Tech in 1986, shortly after I was probably the first hire after we separated from CT Consultants. But I'm an electrical engineer by degree, but I handle all of the QC quality control reviews, all of the drawing assembly, and all of the construction administration for our office as the engineer in charge of production. So when you see a job come out of our office that says Tech Incorporated on it, it's been through my quality control review, and it's been through my basically looking at it and making sure it's got the right information on it.
My name is Dan Bonham. I'm going to be operating as the oversight for the construction side of the project. I've worked with Laketran over the last few years with the build out of the Lakeland, what's that called? Transit Center, sorry. And then also the Wycliffe Park and Ride. And then I've also been working with New Flyer, assisting with the installation of the remote electrical charging stations in Painesville, and then also the one out front here. So.
Thank you. Danny's going to be more construction services, as you'll see as we talk through this. Chris is going to be construction services also. And obviously, this team is always available throughout the entire project. But we're going to start with your project right now as far as some of the requirements. Your first pre-construction services. Pre-construction services are going to be handled by design professionals in their offices, senior level, project manager level, and or principal level, as you're seeing on the right-hand side. Specializations in each and every discipline, architecture, civil, electrical, his mechanical staff, Danny construction services, constructability. We think that is what's needed to make sure we get a thorough and complete review. Now, it's not just a thorough and complete review. We have a number of people that are building officials and plans examiners, including myself. So it'll be a thorough code review to make sure that when it does go to the county for a permitting process, we will not have any glitches or any stumbles. Plus, we will not have any construction issues because we're going to try to address them as quickly as possible in the design phase where this doesn't cost any money. How's that going to happen? It's going to happen with coordination throughout the entire process. Each individual team member will have a week to look at the drawings. They will document all their concerns. The team will get together. The team will then consolidate comments and see how it impacts each and every other discipline. And then you will come out with an initial report that we sit down with Laketran, we sit down with the architect, and we start the discussion process. And somewhere in there, I should have said, is we're meeting with Laketran even before we meet with the architect to make sure we understand your needs and demands and make sure you have the same mindset that we have. And if we're not connecting, we're gonna have those discussions. They may be difficult discussions because we may have a difference of opinion, but the best thing we can do is keep communicating. But that's it, Tim. What do you think about
Just,
this?
you know, one thing I'll add to that a little bit is, you know, all good engineering firms have a quality control review sheet, checklist. You go down through the drawings, and I do this all the time. When I'm looking at a drawing that's going to go out, does it have the proper exit signs? Does it have duct bank details? Does it have means of egress identified? Are phasing addressed properly? And I go down through this checklist, and if something's not right, it shows up as missing or incomplete, and then it goes back into the engineering team. So the same kind of tools are used by our office, and I'm sure CT has the same kind of thing, to go through the plans and make sure that they're complete and constructible. And so those are just tools that we use to check the bid documents and do the review. We have our own internal procedures and policies, and we'll share those with you as we get through the bid review process, the drawing review process.
And to reinforce that, we all do public bid work. We know the amount of detail that's needed so that there aren't questions or, more important, change orders coming up from contractors saying, well, that's not what I expected. We never will hear that. It's what's on the drawings. And if it's not on the drawings, at that time, we will get them the right information to make good decisions. You can see some of the other issues that we have to look at besides the drawings: supply chain issues, bid document review, contract review, contractor, subcontractor review during the bidding process, and obviously the general trades contractor, whoever is going to be leading this team, let alone what the design professional is looking at for supply chain and materials. And why do we bring that up? Well, we have this thing called COVID. We have this thing called supply chain issues. We have major elements. I'm gonna let Tim start because he has all the fun stuff.
One of the things I do, in addition, is I'm a training agency for contractors in the area. A lot of the electrical contractors take my classes, my code classes, and I learn from them just as much as they learn from me. I teach them the code, and it gives me an opportunity to find out what's going on in the industry. And certain panel boards are not available. For example, a 1200 amp panel can't be gotten readily available. So what we do is I have a phrase called design by availability. If we know something's going to be a long lead item, instead of maybe one 1200 amp panel, we'll design 4 300 amp panel or 3 400 amp panels to get the 1200 amp. If there's an HVAC unit that's a 15-ton unit that's going to take 9 months to get, we'll do maybe 2 7.5s. I know that has an impact on the design, but if it's going to be a major problem with phasing or something needs to happen quicker, that's a way to get around the supply chain issues. And my personal connection with a lot of these contractors, Chapman is just one example of how closely I work with them. They consider me a teammate, a partner in these construction projects. So instead of going in and with an engineering mentality and saying, do this, do this, do this, we work as a team and figure out the solutions. It's much better to do it that way. So we're aware of those issues, and we like to think we address those very, very easily with design by availability.
We're going to keep coining that. He still said that yesterday, and I said, that's exactly, I said it a different way. But we're looking at roof components right now. We're looking at insulation components. We know certain things are not out there. We know things that they're not going to be manufactured until next year, modified bitumen in particular. We do know there's some good EPDM roofs that are out there, but they're out probably 12 to 16 weeks. Not a problem if you're on top of your ordering and if your contractor's on top of releasing their subcontractors. Go ahead, please.
How significant do you think some of these shortages would be on a project like ours?
Very significant. And that's why we have to talk about them early on. Bar joists are 6 months out. And you show a lot of bar joists on your drawings already. We're designing a building now, we're using steel beams. It's a whole different construction. We know about it. We have to change design processes. It's not going to cost anymore. In fact, it's probably going to save money simply because you're buying available material versus a limited amount of material that people are bidding against each other to get that material.
Even like light fixtures. I mean, going with a spec brand light fixture that has a long lead time may not be in your best interest. We might be able to find an acceptable alternative at the time of bidding and working with you to find avenues to save on that supply chain. You know, it's just, and it'll be the smallest component, like a chip in the driver of the LED fixture that holds up the whole shipment. So you don't know what it is until you actually have contacted the manufacturers and gone to the contractors and found out what's available and what's not. But you'd be surprised at the smallest thing that could hold up phasing of a job and moving into the space. So you will have something on this project that will be impacted by supply chain that we need to work with.
But the thing is, we gotta keep in mind that if we know these things are long lead times, the expectations that we work with Laketran, get early bid release packages out, get that material on order so that when the contractor or subcontractor is brought on the team, we turn that order over to them and make that part of their process. So it's just, we try and eliminate as much as we can those types of material issues with a little bit of planning.
Right.
How do the material issues impact the cost of the project? I mean, by doing the process you're talking about, you're able to hold costs.
We can control those costs with prudent release of bid packages. Again, I know you're looking at what we understand a bid build project, design bid build, which is fine. Within those, we have to make sure the contractor is being very proactive and releasing work in a timely manner. And it's our job to make sure that's being properly adhered to. I show PVC piping, all your undergrounds, PVC piping. We had heard 12-inch piping is 6 to 8 months out. What we would say is maybe your design professional releases a civil package, and maybe we have to start phasing this project and have that be done by specific site contractors to allow us to get ahead of some of the stopping points. The last thing we want to do is award a project and then not get out of the ground for 6 months because we can't put anything in the ground. But we're not here to worry you. We're saying that's our job to worry about. We're taking that pressure off of you. Let us stay up nights. Let us worry about these things. What we want to do is have the opportunity to give you ideas on how we can circumvent our concerns. Okay,
Question.
please.
How long do you think it's going to be before we get rid of this quote unquote supply chain issues where everybody's blaming the supply chain And nobody seems to be able to manufacture things that 5 years ago, it would just turn the crank and you get it. How long is it going to be? 6 months, year, 2 years, 10 years? Never?
Who wants to jump on that landman,
That's
guys?
a good question.
I mean, this is ridiculous.
I wish I had the answer, because people ask me that all the time, and I
Well, I got the answer when they get off their dead asses and do some work.
yeah,
I'm sick of this.
don't know.
Everybody quit working during this damn COVID thing. And they don't want to come back.
We're having the same problems even in our office, believe it or not. But the age of the people working at this project, we love being in the office. We can't work outside the office. So yeah, we're always available. Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about your project. You wanted a little bit about some of the 4 or 5 topics that you're evaluating. You want to be very specific to make sure you understand that we think we get the job, we get what you're expecting, and then we're going to tell you how we're going to get there. But let me turn this over to Pete.
Yes, obviously, one of the criteria is the working relationship, which I believe we have a strong relationship, CT does, with Laketran. The projects, it's just a quick list of the projects that we've been doing since 2015 or so. 13. And you know, starting with, I think we started with, the Painesville transfer station, working on that, and then working on the propane tank. We had some like kind of almost like a retainer leftover money that we were able to continue providing some services, doing some spot repairs, concrete repairs, especially in the back over here. You know, our CO detector and the propane detector unit change out that we did in the garage area. Then worked on into the Lakeland College or Qualifications Transit Center, and with the Wycliffe Park and Ride, finishing up with these electrical chargers that we're putting in. Hopefully, we're gonna be doing more of those around the county. So, and then also hopefully we're gonna be working on some bus shelters here in the near future. So, I think CT has a great relationship, and we want to continue working. And as I've said in the past, we want to be a partner with Laketran. We love being partners, working together, getting things done so that we can move on to the next project. And that's kind of been our philosophy.
Thanks, Pete. Okay, so how are we going to work this out? So you want to know a communication plan. You want to know how we're going to reach out to the community. We are communicators. That's what engineers and architects do. Obviously, we communicate verbally, we communicate with drawings, we communicate with technology now. As you can see, we're doing this PowerPoint in front of us, and I did learn how to work this, and I'm pretty proud of myself. But what we can do is we have multiple ways to do this. We love meeting in person. Obviously, if there's a COVID change, we can't go virtual. We are very good at that. We do have other methods for sharing common ideas. We can go into SharePoint. We can go into technologies where we can upload things and solicit opinions. And obviously get notifications to those individuals so that the board has an opportunity to weigh in on it. And we probably can't proceed until we get those communities weigh in and the committees weigh in. Not only do we want to do this internally, but we have to do it externally, and we have to keep everyone informed. We're very cognitive of the public. We're municipal engineers, we're design professionals, we're in the public sector, we're building officials. Public means a lot to us, and public satisfaction means a lot. And more importantly, public not coming back to committees and our board members and questioning obvious things like, why was this bus late all week long? And we can't say he couldn't get out of the parking lot. So what we need to do, if there are issues, the best thing we can communicate. Julie Schick, you have a community communication director. We have communication people also. We have ability to put things on our web. We can link our website to your website. We can have public access to a number of different social medias, because what we want to do is to make sure everyone's aware of what's going on. This is an exciting project and it's a necessity. You guys are overcrowded. We can see just coming in how busy this place is. They need to spread out, and obviously this improvement's gonna be a little bit painful, which we're gonna show you later on, but we know we can get you there.
As well.
And obviously the employees. Okay, Pete. I think I jumped too far. No, maybe that was it. Okay, so now we want to talk about your project. And we've taken the opportunity to look at the drawings, looked at the site plans, and look at some of the phasing. Again, this is our initial reaction. You may have some better ideas, love to hear them, but let's talk about this site first, Pete.
Yeah, as doing a quick review of this, the plans that that Bowen had supplied and the yeah, just as a preliminary thing, I know that they laid out a lot of phasing on how things were gonna be built, and that's something I'm really looking forward to digging into and seeing how, you know, this area is in that area during this phase on the site for lay down areas and whatnot. We know that the properties around us are all wetlands, and there's, you know, we're not gonna be able to utilize that area, so it's gonna be tight, but you know, with the parking lot in the back over there, I saw you had, Bowen has employee parking set up for back there, and I'm sure you'll be able to shuttle them back and forth somehow. But, you know, just getting all that layout together with the sewer work that we need to do up front and the water line work in the back to replace those lines and to make room for the expansion. That's like I said, I see their phasing plan that they have here, and you know, we want to work together with Bowen. It's not like we're throwing Bowen out the window and saying, oh, we got to change this, but let's examine it, make sure it's gonna be we can work together, work with the employees, and have this run smoothly without delaying buses. Absolutely, that's number one.
Well, more importantly, not only buses, because the staff's really a critical part of the job. And we have things like in the water line and the sanitary lines, which are going directly underneath the addition. I haven't seen the mechanical drawings. I think Tim's saying we need a little bit more work on those to make sure that work's done well in advance of that addition starting, because you do need to maintain all your sanitary connections. We do know, more importantly, there's a lot of noise transmission that's going to be happening between the departments. We know already that in your maintenance area, which is phase 4, you have your employees' locker room. I don't know how that sanitary connection is going to be maintained throughout the construction of phase 1. Love to talk to someone about that. We also know that there's blocking the areas off, maintaining a secure site so that we don't have accidents from people, the public, visitors walking into a construction site. We are going to be fencing areas off, in my opinion. We are going to be barricading, which is going to further stretch available land for laydown and for material access. Contractors don't want to handle things 3 times. If they have to, you're going to see the price escalate. We have to give them the room to do their job. And Tim, if you could maybe show a little bit more about your concerns.
You know, the one thing that I got very clearly when I looked at the drawings so far is the lack of MEP phasing with the architectural phasing. It doesn't look like the MEP is through the phasing of how they're going to keep services while the phasing happens throughout the building. It looks like they just kind of designed an all new space and they said, you know, see the architectural for the phasing. That doesn't really work out so well in real life. You need to set up different systems. If you know, an HVAC system can only serve one renovated area at a time. So you really need to break that up, or you need to have a game plan for how you supply air to 2 different phased areas, blocking it off in the renovated area while you maintain air conditioning in the other space. So I didn't really see a good game plan there. And as Bill mentioned, there's a bathroom, the locker room for there's a sanitary connection interruption. So that locker room will be, according to the plans right now, not able to be used while the renovation is underway in the phase before it. So you might be having to cut through brand new renovated area, which I don't think you want to do if the plans stay the way they are. So things like this, again, there's phasing considerations on my checklist that I go through if we have a phase job, and making sure that the MEP systems are choreographed with the architectural. Looks like it needs a little bit of work, and that's where we're going to come in and help with that.
Tim, thank you. And I'm an architect, so I love beating up engineers. The thing is, we have fire protection systems in this building that have to be maintained and have to be operational while you're in it. And as soon as you turn the next phase over, that has to be operational also. I'm not sure how that's going to happen. I don't know if it's even possible. The point is, we need fire prevention involved in this as quickly as possible. I do see we're building partitions in between these phases. You can see on this drawing alone, there's 1, 3B, 2A, 4, 2B, or whatever. There's 5 phases in this one little area. Each and every time someone's running into a wall that can't get out of the building, that's fire prevention has concerns with those things, as we do too as design professionals. So we need to start getting other people involved in discussions, and ultimately we need to get the employees involved in these discussions. If it's going to be a problem, the best thing we can do is communicate that it's a problem and we understand. And what can we do that's going to make you do your job or allow you to do your job? And those are our challenges. Those are your challenges. So your last thing you want to know, have we ever worked with occupied and operating buildings? And again, I think that was a softball throw, and we appreciate you giving us an easy one, because every building we do, it seems like it's a renovation and or it's an alteration. I wish we all did new starts, but unfortunately we do a lot more renovation than we do that. And we're always impacting someone. We showed in the SOQ a lot of these things. I'm not going to go into the SOQ right now because they're pretty pictures. And again, we don't want to talk about the pretty pictures. We want to talk about the tough challenges you have. So the school districts that we deal with, Medical Mutual, we show this because that wasn't really a new operating building, but it was a phase building. We had a 4-story building. We were bringing people in 4 to 5 different phases. In doing that, we had to have a move management plan. And we actually had move management people involved in that. We suggested it be contracted out. It's a service that can be provided, but the people that are doing the planning are also doing the moving. And it's best to get them early into the project to make sure that they're helping make sure you're not losing any productivity with your staff, which is super critical. But what we do want to talk about is industrial plants, because this is an industrial design. Even though there's a lot of office areas, I'm very comfortable we can get you through that, but you're always worried about making sure your operations are being maintained. We do this with water, wastewater, not that you're water or wastewater, but we have to deal with a lot more complicated thing than buses and circulations and obviously employee areas. We have to make sure that utilities are maintained. We have to make sure that processes are maintained, and we have to make sure the flows are being maintained. We had this project that I needed to show because I think it's even more fun than a phasing of employees. This is a phasing of a building that was being torn down that we had a raw water pump station that needed to be maintained for the duration. This project took us 3 or 4 years. 3 years. And it meant taking down a stack, which is 400 feet tall. It meant taking down a building, a CEI power plant building that was probably 150 feet tall in areas, multi-level structural steel, next to a building, next to a raw water pumping station that was 3 stories below ground, that if in fact it would go down one day, we estimated that businesses could be out up to $250,000 a day with lost revenues. It was that important to maintain that. I'm happy to say that we were successful and it turned out to be a great project. And I'm hoping this works. And if it doesn't, I'll be somewhat disappointed, but can you make that work? Oh, shoot. Can you push the button? Maybe see if that'll automate. Let me see if I can. And see, that's the end of the slide.
I don't know how to make it.
Long story short.
There was a big boom. And the next picture of this massive power plant is what was maintained. That little structure right there. But that was critical to the operations of the facility. So
And that little structure is 2 stories, probably 80 feet tall because of the structure underneath it, probably about 200 feet long, 70, 100 feet wide. And obviously you can see not only that, but we had to go down probably another 40 to 80 feet. And that's where the pump stations are underneath. So if we can maintain no safety issues, never an injury on that project, never a slowdown of water production, raw water production that entire time. And when it was done and over with, turned out to be a great job for our client.
and it took some effort due to the fact, part of the reason it took so long was rerouting of utilities that would have been impacted that were running through the basement of this structure. They had to be rerouted and planned for in advance of the project moving forward. Sorry.
Anyway, any questions so far?
Yes. Can you go back to the slide that had the overview of the building and everything? Keep going back if you can.
Which slide in
One
particular?
back more,
One more?
2 more, another one.
Site plan?
There, right there.
Okay,
CEI power overhead.
yep,
Are those the lines that are up there now?
yes, they are.
Wow. And our gas filling station is right next to them. That's pretty scary. What's
I would
the
say-
code on that? Wow.
I would say, obviously, you have a tight site. We wish you had more site. I think where you put it was where it can only be.
If I recall, when we worked on the design with that, we worked with the fire department and to make sure that everything was safe with all the equipment and the tanks and everything. That was a concern and it was addressed with the fire department and through the specification.
Just something obvious when I looked at that, that's all.
Yeah, Pete and I went to Painesville Township Fire Department and sat down with the fire chief and the fire, a couple different people in the fire department and showed them the design before it was built and all the plans. They had one requirement, which was about runoff and where the rainwater would direct the spill,
Right.
if I remember right, but they approved everything.
What was that for again?
That was when we,
Sorry to interrupt.
that was when we demolished the remaining natural gas filling station and added the propane back there.
Good question, though. We like challenges. We're not afraid of being challenged at all. Challenge us all you want. We have thick skin. Ask us any tough question. We're fine with that. That's the fun part. It is what we do. We just want to show you
Bill.
qualifications. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I see. I know you got a few more slides to go through, but you just went through a whole lot of descriptions of things that you're going to be looking at and how you want to, what you might want to address and all that. So what would you consider to be the 3 most significant challenges or risks to the successful completion of the project based upon what you kind of just described? You have
Thorough
just a couple,
review.
3.
Thorough review. It has to be reviewed properly or you'll be killed by change orders. Right? I hate change orders. I hate bringing that information back to any client, any person. No one wants to hear that. Supply chain issues. We have a lot of concerns with getting materials and finding the right materials that will help us go through the project. And ultimately, quality control, which is handled through our field inspectors to make sure you're getting what you're paid for, to make sure that it's the right product for the right location and it's installed properly and it's something that is maintenance free has longevity. It's something the board doesn't have to worry about.
Going back to a few of the other areas that you showed concern, the HVAC for one, some of the site some sanitary work and things like that. Under the design bid build process, I think we're somewhat limited on how many bid packages we could put out from that standpoint. So I think you're still going to have just one bid package that would be under the control of the contractor. So in looking at this during the plan review process, how would you interact with Laketran and with Bowen to try to better understand Bowen's approach to it, or offering some other new approaches to it?
So don't talk, that's not continue
No,
talking. I think
absolutely.
someone else can
Sure,
take, someone
sure.
else's.
You know, what we've done before with phasing documents is we've had an A series set, a B series set, and a C series set of the phasing. So mechanically, architecturally, electrically, it's all in one document set. So the contractors, when they're bidding it, they know the start and stop point occupy this space after the A set is finished and completed.
Mhm.
Then you can roll into the B set. So you still have one overarching general contractor responsible for the performance of the work, but everybody understands the desired deliverable at the end of that phase, because the contract requirement in those phase sets are available. If you outline it on sheets or you don't disseminate it or on every discipline, I find that there's arguments within the sub-trades on, well, I was going to run that duct in phase 3. Well, no, we need it in phase 1 because that duct carries air into the phase 1 area. So having those phase sheets, even though they don't show work in all of the areas, that kind of separates out responsibilities. And if there's one real thing that concerns me is it doesn't look like that's been done on the set that I reviewed. So that's my one big sticking point. But that's what I've seen before, is phased sets.
So going back to my original question, that'd be one of the big risks that you would see, is that
That's my
there
MEP.
hasn't been a good coordinated effort in terms of phasing on this.
And again, I don't want to, perhaps the drawings we saw were not complete 100%. There might be some additional information that I'm not privy to at this point, but I will certainly be looking for that as a construction document reviewer.
Mhm.
And we'll obviously meet with Bowen and Laketran to go over those.
To make sure we
concerns.
understand.
And yeah, if maybe that's more Bowen's, we make
Right.
those suggestions to Bowen and say, hey, can you tweak this?
Okay.
And maybe there's a plan that is
They already
unknown
have
by
it.
that
Just
team.
don't know.
We're not into it yet to know.
One of the beginning steps could be just a good workshop with Bowen and
Sure,
Laketran.
sure. What was your intent here? What was the reasoning? And then if there's a way to clarify it better, when it gets on the street, that's, where I always say engineers, all of my job is looking forward in time, finding out what could be a potential problem and avoiding it now, so it's not a problem later. That's all I do every day. So finding a potential problem, I see something with that. So I just want to do the proactiveness to avoid that in the future if it becomes an issue. That's all it is.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add to that, we're, as part of the initial phase 1 of this, it's provide take the 20 days to review the drawings and provide comments. As soon as we're done with that, I think Bill led into this, we'll meet with Laketran, meet with Bowen, review those and try and work through those. It's important to know that CT is going to be part of if accepted, is going to be part of the team. We're not trying to shoot arrows at anybody. This is a collaborative effort. We're here to assist and provide alternate trains of thought that, by the fact that we're coming in late to this process, we're going to have a fresh look at the project and be able to provide possible insights that haven't been looked at previous. And the intent here is to work with Laketran and Bowen to make sure that this is a successful project.
Might be more of a scope discussion item here, but how would you guys be approaching the cost estimate looking at that? When in your process would you be taking a look at that part of it?
Cost estimates are reviewed constantly with each and every review, because anytime there's scope change and or material changes, obviously the estimate. We're not sure who's doing your estimate. Is it the design professional? Do they have an outside consultant? Is anyone aware of where we are?
They used RC, RRI, yeah.
Okay, so obviously, we're going to get them inside the same bubble with us. They're going to be looking at it the same way we are. And obviously, we're going to be explaining to them supply chain issues. They know it already. They're doing that on a regular basis. We don't want to be the estimator, but we want to make sure the estimate's accurate. We do this all the time. Every public bid project we have spreadsheet after spreadsheet of material costs. We have 10 years worth of values that are not worth much right now, but but we've collected that information.
Gotcha, Bill.
And we have some ways to gauge how everyone's doing.
Okay.
Is the 20-day review process enough?
And I'm just saying that because I don't think you're at 90% reviewed documents, what we saw.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I don't think your documents are ready to be reviewed in their entirety, what we saw. Yeah, I thought some of them were like about 30%.
What set did we send them?
And if I'm wrong, because we didn't get the latest set, then I misspoke.
There were some notes even on the drawing with question mark, is this powered, question mark, on the drawings we saw. So,
Yeah, the detail sheets, there were
Yeah, those,
spaces for the detail. They weren't
Oh,
actually
hold on
filled
here.
out yet, but
those were
placeholders.
not the construction.
Yeah, hold on here. Ben, didn't the board approve a significant amount of money to complete the drawings?
Yeah, they did.
Did CT get those drawings?
I don't think the final drawings were completed when the procurement started. So whoever wins will get the full set of drawings.
Well, do they need them now or not?
I would say no, Lane.
No,
I'd
we're
say you don't
okay
need
right
the
now.
final drawings right now. They had a chance to look at them and sure.
Right.
But when they enter into the contract, they'll need the final drawings.
Right, what we got was enough to allow us to understand the design and the intent and,
Okay.
allow us to get an insight. So,
Well, your firm gave us an estimate early on in this whole process for doing the project. I am assuming you guys know that.
yeah, there was an initial estimate that we provided that was significantly lower than the current project cost right now. And we also did a review of the cost estimate at SD phase.
Right.
So again, yeah, we are aware of the progress of
Okay.
the project.
I figured you were.
More questions. Regardless of exactly what status, when we get to the point where we hand you the plans and say, this is what we're going to be reviewing, is 20 days enough for that?
I still repeat, no. And it's not. And it's very complicated. It's a very complicated project, and it's the phasing and making sure that the phasing is done correctly and making sure you can't continue working in this building and operating. We think 20 days is a good initial review, period.
You know what the next question is?
How much time?
Yes, sir.
I would hope within 60 days, because I think it's 2 or 3 reviews and meetings and getting back together and beating this up. And I think you have to do that to get the best pricing and to minimize any change orders or field changes. Again, if you're at 90%, if you're not at 90%, then I'm going to retract that comment.
The construction drawings are done. So the set you have isn't finished, but the construction drawings have now been completed. So there's 100% drawings.
Okay, well then I would still say we'd like to have that opportunity. And if you want it done in 20 days, we will get it done in 20 days. But I think Laketran needs more input and needs to hear this and needs to be involved in these decisions instead of us coming up with our ideas and suggesting them in front of the board. It's more of a communication and a collaborative. Again, we're beating up this over and over. Seniors, a lot of experience, areas of specialization, doing review. People that do the review are also people that do these projects on a daily basis. Now, we talked about the easy part. That was the first 20 days, 30, 60 days supposedly. Now we have 2 more years worth of work, and there's a lot of work going on with that. So I'm going to turn this over to Danny and hopefully get us through it.
Hopefully the hour isn't a hard number because coming up against it. I'll try and move through this though.
Don't, you have as much time as.
Okay, all right. CT, as I had stated before, we're looking to become part of the team where I expect to see us as an extension of Laketran. Part of the reason we're being brought in is to alleviate the stress and the day-to-day obligations on Keith and Mark and let them continue doing their work, allowing Laketran to continue doing the business of moving people around with the busing. Communication is going to be the key to this process. It's going to require the reporting mechanisms. What you see up there is a summary of what you can expect in a monthly report. The monthly report is great, but it provides you just a snapshot in history of where this project is, what we expect to see coming up in the future. It's going to be the day-to-day communications. It's going to be the daily field reports when our inspector's on site. It's going to be constant updating of logs, change order logs, understanding the cost estimate, being able to understand where the schedule's at, looking at submittal logs, make sure that the materials being provided are as specified and making sure that you're getting the quality that's required. You know, it's making sure that we're coordinating employee interactions, making sure that everybody's safe and happy on a daily basis.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Not only did we put this up, we didn't put it in the slide because no one can see the slide, but in the packet enclosed, we gave you a spreadsheet of a monthly report.
Just excerpt, just a change order log specifically from the previous Laketran project that we had worked on. So just a snippet. We knew it wasn't going to show well on the slide, but it's nice to see some of the outline of the appearance for that. So, so again, it's going to be the communication. It's going to be making sure that you're getting the information. The daily field reports will be sent out the day after. We expect that there'll be constant updating the change order RFI logs, submittals, so that you have on a daily basis, you'll be able to see what that status is. With that being said, the communication is key. That's going to be ongoing. Once we get past the pre-construction phase of this, it's going to be getting this out on the street and going out and getting that price from the contractor and being able to evaluate the subcontractors. And that's where CT and our experience with tech, will be able to evaluate and understand who the players are, be able to evaluate their proposals, make sure that you're getting quality. And we understand too the emphasis that Laketran likes to put on utilizing the local firms to keep it close to home. So that'll be something that we also take into account as, while we're assisting with the evaluation of the contractors. Construction services, as we're going through this thing, we got 100% construction documents. This is going to go out on the street. Contractor, subcontractors are going to be looking at that design and to some extent doing a little bit of what we've done here, saying, I can't get that. I can't get that. I think this is a better product. Can I substitute these products? And that's going to extend all the way from footers all the way to roof and everything in between. And one of the things that CT likes to pride themselves on is understanding what those substitutions are, being able to assist Bowen with the evaluation of those substitutions, making sure you're getting the same quality that you intended, making sure that those costs are adequate, with the idea of making sure that at the end of the day, you're getting the building that you want. Laketran, this is going to be I expect your one and only opportunity for many, many years to do this project and to do it right. So you're going to want to make sure that you have something that's long lasting. And that's our intent here, is to make sure that you're being provided through the evaluation of those submittals and substitution requests and change requests. One of the things that
I'm going to turn this over to Tim just for a second, if I could, before you start wrapping up your construction services, because not only is Danny the project manager, he has the same responsibility that I'm going to have throughout the project. There's other great guys around, not as good as him, but a lot of other guys. But we're going to have tech also support some of those construction services.
Yeah, not as good as Danny, but I like to think as we work together on the past projects, we like to come to a mutually satisfactory resolution. To Danny's point, you want to get your value. You paid for something that is going to be long lasting and going to serve you well. But within that umbrella, there are some things that mutually maybe we can work together on. And so Tech prides themselves in the ability to negotiate with contractors one-on-one in a relationship, come to an agreement on a mutually satisfactory condition. So you saw that, one of the things with the Lakeland transit building was doing something that's never been done before, putting those chargers in a canopy. It was never been done before. And we worked together with the electrical contractor. We came up with some different wiring. We did some resolution to that. And ultimately, it's giving you what you need. So that's just one example of a condition where we came together, found a solution, worked with the on-site contractors, and got the job done.
I apologize if it came off sounding like I was going to be doing all these things. CT is a team, and I'll just be the guy telling you, sharing the news.
Danny's the one who calls me and says we have a problem.
And speaking of that, if I recall, when we did this sidewalk back over here, that was a problem. If you recall, Ben, we had the handicap, the ramp, the slope and the curb and we had to work out the elevations and everything else. And site work wise, that was, I kind of smile when I see that, because it came out okay. But I remember there was some consternation about that we had to work with the contractor to get it right. So just another fun problem.
Dan,
Go ahead.
would your expectation be that someone would be on site 40 hours a week during the construction? I know near the end it tails off, but is that part of the proposal that you guys would be thinking about? Is somebody be on site 40 hours a week?
The expectation is, if you want someone here 40 hours a week, we'll be here 40 hours a week. My expectation, the need, I don't know that we necessarily need to be here.
Okay.
40 hours a week. We are right around the corner. We pride ourselves on, there's a problem, we're on site.
How do you find out there's a problem?
Contractors are very good at pointing fingers, and I find that
We're burying it.
Already? Oh,
we're here during key points so that things don't get buried. We're making key inspections. We're working ahead of time. We're letting the contractor know, I want to see this, I want to see this, I want to see this. I don't want it buried before we get on site. With that being said, could I see someone being here full time during pouring of foundations, doing the site work? absolutely, on a normal public project, we're on site 24/7 or 40 hours during those processes. On a building, oh, go ahead.
Where I'm headed with my question really is, if there's a conflict between the plans and then in the field, when you do the excavation, that you're always finding something a little bit different usually.
Right.
How do you process, or what's your process for resolving that problem or issue?
It's a matter of understanding, being here, getting on site, taking a look firsthand at the problem, and coming up with a plan that I would think that would be satisfactory. This would typically involve Bowen, as it's their design, and make sure with the conversating with the contractor that the resolution, I typically like to see a couple of possible solutions so that we can make sure that we're putting the best solution in place, because construction, there's one thing I hate hearing from a contractor or anybody is that can't be done, because in my mind, there's always a way. And it's just a matter of figuring out what's going to work best, that's going to be most cost effective. And I find that best getting the input from the contractor. Hey, we got this problem. We need to get this from point A to point B, and we got an interference. What you tell me what your thoughts are. I agree, disagree. And then we go back to Bowen and say, here's what we found. Here's a couple of solutions. Let me know what your thoughts are.
Okay.
And work collaboratively in that fashion.
Where
Thanks.
is Laketran in all of this discussion, in your mind?
If it's a internal issue, we let you know that there's a problem and here's the solution. If it's something that's going to affect the exterior, if it's going to affect the appearance, if it's going to affect how the building's used, those solutions are put in front of you with a recommendation from CT saying, here's what happened, here's our thoughts, we can go this way, here's the pros, cons, we can go this way, pros, cons. And ultimately, it's a Laketran decision. You're the building owner. I want to make sure, I'm not going to sit here and think that I'm going to make decisions that best impact your use, your enjoyment of the facility.
To kind of reinforce what Danny's saying, you're involved in the entire process, because as soon as the first change order is written, you're getting an information that there is something that is being evaluated. Our job is to bring you the solution. And then if there is a cost change, the reason why there is a cost change. But our goal is to not have to do that, to have conversations in advance. And if it is a cost change, it will be well evaluated. And it would be the accurate number versus what we see all too often out there in the industry.
And if I've overstepped, if you want to be involved in, whether the duct work gets routed left or right, or, pipe has to go somewhere else, we can obviously share that. But my expectation is part of the reason that you want an owner's rep is to help take those minor decisions off your plate and allow us to facilitate those. So, and I want to stress too, we had an issue with the opening of the Lakeland site. I got a call from Mark saying that somebody called and complained that there was debris blowing off the roof. I immediately jumped I live in Strongsville. I jumped in the car, called the contractors as I'm driving out here, met Mark out here to find out that there was garbage blowing around. But my point to that is that, when we're talking about whether we need to be here 40 hours, we're here, we will be here at a moment's notice to facilitate and address concerns, issues, or problems on site.
Especially with our office being 10 minutes away.
That would have been great if I had been there, but regardless.
There's also other things with construction services that we're cognitive of. Now, obviously, it's employee safety, vehicle safety, public safety. We're also concerned about pandemic related issues, very cognitive of that, not only in the interface, but in the daily meetings. Obviously, you're very conscientious about it also. We are also with meetings with the contractors, making sure the subs and all the associate subs are making sure some internal checks and balances. We have some ideas about contract language that we would like to discuss, putting it in the contract. If there is a epidemic that creates a delay, that's not Laketran's problem. That's just a fact of life. Everyone's on pause. The job maybe slides a little bit, but since no one's able to work, we don't see that as a cost change. But we have to be cognizant of these and we have to be aware of these things. And obviously, part of our responsibility is making sure everything is a safe working environment to minimize any potential problems. Okay, so we're going to let you ask the last couple of questions, but we just want to say we want to be part of this project. This is the A team. This is a Tech A team. This is a CTA team. This is the best we have to offer. If it's not good enough, then it's time for me to move on and do something else in life. This is a project we want. You're the type of clients we want to have in our wheelhouse. We want repeat business. We work strong and hard to have repeat business. We want to be able to say, we've been working with you for 10 years. Now we want to say 20 years. We want to keep on moving that bar up. This is a major project in Lake County. We want to make sure it's a successful project. We want to make sure it's Lake County contractors working in here, and we want a lot of local representation. We think we have the right talent. We think we have the right capabilities, not just a company, 2 companies worth of design professionals, inspectors, technical people, able to support you at any request. And I assure you it's at any request. And if we not, we will find the right person to make sure that this happens. And lastly, I can't just offer that you let us know what you want. We're very flexible. If we are coming off too strong that you think we haven't approached this properly, tell us. We'll figure out what you need and we'll get it done. And then on the other hand, if you say, you guys are feeling pretty soft right now, toughen it up. We only did that because we're live. So we can be a lot tougher and we can be a lot nastier, but not today. We're going to all be friends. And I think when the project's done, we'll all still be friends, contractors, design professionals, and everyone else, because everyone's here to make sure Laketran gets what they deserve. And that's the best project and the best outcome possible. But anyway, we thank you for allowing us to come here, and we're available to answer any or all questions.
Well, we have a list of questions which I think you were given, and really addressed, but I think this is a matter of formality. So, just to make sure we have a little script written out. So read most of the Like the first question, which is describing how you intend to communicate during project. Answer that question really well. Does anybody have any questions on that? Anything you'd like to add to that at this point?
I'm going to go say, let's go to number 2. That was an easy one. Number 2.
For me, then it's describe a project that went poorly. What did you or your team do? What did you or your team do to problem solve, find solutions, and improve the outcome? And again, I think Dan explained a lot of that about how he goes through the process when they identify.
I'm going to give that
problem.
one to Tim because there's some charger stations that Sarah talked about earlier. I'm not saying one poorly. We never say it's
That's
poor.
coming up.
It's
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
Challenge, it's a challenge, yeah. And I mean, one thing that we don't do is stop communicating. I mean, that's key. You have to continue to, however hard things get, however much finger pointing is going on, you just never stop communicating. You bring all of the, and the other thing I'll tell you is, I find when things start going wrong, it's a direct result of not being engaged with the proper people on the project. As we talked about here, this is the best we have to offer of our firms. We've got 200 years of experience. we have the ability to handle the problems that are going to come up on this project. And believe me, there will be things that come up on the project. There's no doubting that. It's who you put in charge to fix it. And I think this is the team that will fix those problems.
Airplane.
Well, I have one here. It says, talk about your process of resolving differences between owner, architect, and contractor. You've more or less described that more than once in your discussions here. I don't know that that question can really be answered very good until we get in the process of doing this project. I mean, if you can answer that question now, then why are we having this meeting? I mean, geez.
So once again, I think most of these have been touched on, so.
Yeah.
So I think what we'll do is just go through it as an exception, unless you want to add something to it.
I think we stand on what we said.
So what makes you nervous about the project? I think we've all talked about that. I think that's pretty clear. The phasing is primarily a big issue. The speed, as I understand it, of the preliminaries is an issue that we need to be aware of.
Read.
Do you have two copies?
I have no idea.
That last question you read was to be my question on myself.
When did you print these, Trudy?
I printed them.
Oh,
Well, I'm sorry for taking your part.
No.
No, I,
yeah, Gary's is right.
I don't need it.
Yours is correct. Gary's is correct.
You can read all the ones that say Gary. How's that?
No, I rearranged some because some people they didn't want to ask certain questions. So I did rearrange them late in the game. So Gary, your copy is the right one.
Well,
So
the problem is, we're gonna be tripping over each other.
No, the questions, just Gary can say who ask the next question. The questions didn't change.
So if I say number 5, Chuck, that gonna work?
Okay. What makes you excited about Laketran's project?
We love challenges. This really is a fun job. And again, if I just designed buildings all day long, I'd probably left the business long ago because it's not challenging enough. This has challenges because it is a committee. It is a board. Someone just told me a story about designing a horse by committee and it came out as a camel. We understand that, but we do this. This is our livelihood. So we want big challenging projects. This is a big challenging project, has a lot of meat on it, a lot of challenges, and that's what we do for a living.
You know, can I follow up just real quick? You know, what's exciting to me is all Lake County firms working on a Lake County project. And when I see those electric buses and I'm driving around and my family's with me, I can say, look, it's part of what I helped do. Not that I did it, but it's something that I helped do. And that to me is exciting. And this next step, it's just as exciting to create a home for you here that works for the business and keeps your business going. You know, we have such good businesses in Lake County. It's unbelievable. The people and the technology and the companies we have here, it gets me excited. That's what gets me juiced. So.
6, Don. Yes, ma'am.
What do you consider to be the 3 most significant challenges or risks to the successful completion of this project? And how will you help mitigate those challenges?
You specifically addressed them already.
We did.
Yeah.
I'm going to stand on our earlier answer.
Lane, number 7.
I don't know if what value will your firm bring to Laketran in this project? You've answered that about 10 times, I think.
I was giving it to Pete. You want me to Pete? If you give it to Pete,
We have the
we'll never.
resources. We have the horsepower.
And
Sorry,
We have the resources and horsepower to do it.
that's obvious.
Thank you.
So as you know, this building is going to remain open during construction. So what specifically will you do to ensure that operations are not impacted throughout this project?
I think we've making sure your heating, cooling, water, all functions. Making sure that we're going to put a plan in place. We're going to assist with the oversight of that plan. And then making sure that we stand on the contractor's neck to make sure that they follow all the guidelines and regulations or devices that we've requested be put in place to ensure that separation and that safety of your personnel from the contractors. And that would include dust control, noise control as part of that process.
You're up on number 9.
What actions would you take if the project is falling behind schedule or exceeding the project budget?
I think we're going to stand on Danny's comment. We're watching schedules on a regular basis, we're watching costs on a regular basis. We're communicating that, not only in a monthly report, weekly information, weekly owner, architect, contractors meetings. We see it slipping, we will ask the contractor to add additional work force, add additional manpower, do whatever is needed to get back on track.
What kind of monitoring? You think that even today's world, coming out of this pandemic, labor shortages, touching supply chain issues, and a continual rising costs.
Well,
Much of a problem because
because this is a design bid build, a number of the issues that you brought up are going to be the responsibility of the contractor once they're under contract. Is going to be maintaining and making sure that changes that do arise throughout the project are properly monitored, pushed against, make sure that those best costs, and God forbid if something, we need to go back and take a look and maybe make some changes in the design, change some of the layout, to help offset some of those unforeseens. That's a possibility, but one that we're looking to avoid as part of the design review process to make sure that, we try and seek those problems out before they arise. But the labor shortage, the material cost, those are going to be part of the contractor's burden to bear and not something that we would expect to see passed on to Laketran once we're under contract. We will keep a change order log that shows, to be honest, we like to show a total contract project cost that not only includes the construction aspects, but other soft costs, your IT, furniture. We always propose that we put together that budget so that you have a total project cost in front of you.
And what Danny's saying is, we're not only monitoring, looking ahead, you're going to see a projected cost for that change order when we see the change order. And obviously, we're going to be looking at that the entire time until it becomes a physical dollar amount. But you want to know where you're at any given time. And any given time in a project this large, we may have 10 to 15 open change orders and or revisions. Some are no change, some are no cost, some are potential costs. So we'll do potential change cost, and we'll track that and make sure it is, and do our best to represent Laketran to make sure it's a fair price if it's a warranted change.
Dan,
I like
could
that warranted.
you touch based on your review of the monthly progress payments? How you go about doing that? What you're doing with that?
Well, this is something that I've done for Laketran over the last few years, and I'm particularly tough because, I go and walk the site. I make sure that what they're actually billing for is work that's completed. I don't have any problem knocking their pay estimate down a few percentage points if I feel that they've overbilled or they're overstepping. We're particularly tough. I don't like, I don't want to say I don't like, but when they come to billing for stored materials, make sure proper paperwork is in place, pictures, make sure that material is actually on the ground, sitting in a warehouse and not just projected to be somewhere close by. So I am tough with the contractors with that, in that regard.
Thank you.
I saw Danny reject a $1.50 pop on a medical mutual project that was probably a bill of $4 million. He caught it. You know what? It didn't get paid.
Yeah. All right.
All right, I guess I'm up next. Explain your process during the plan review period. We talked about that, but it actually did raise a little question for me. So we talked about a fairly compact period of when you're doing the plan review. Excuse me. How deep do you need to go to get confidence that the plan is where it needs to be? When I'm talking deep, I mean, how far into the plans do you need to go to truly understand that the plans are correct or appropriate?
Let me put you at ease. It's very deep, but it's something we do every day of the week. We can do it quite easily. We're not bringing in trainees to learn how to review drawings. We're bringing people that do this for a living every day of the week, hundreds and hundreds of projects a day. We can get there very easily. Plus, we know engineering standards very well. But the point is the communication is critical, understanding, being open to other ideas, why the design professionals and their engineers did what they did, and then having another discussion on that. But most importantly, making sure that the changes were made and are in the documents. And when it goes out to the contractors, we are all on the same page and representing the project the same way, so that there's no wiggle room for a contractor that comes in and says, I didn't think that's what you wanted.
And it, site-wise, especially, let me add to that, Bill, is the prices to include in the contract. Reading through those, making sure that, you know, a contractor may be bidding on replacing, 4,000 square yards of sidewalk, okay? But, in the prices to include, it also says, hey, you're gonna have to pay to remove that sidewalk, or you're gonna have to pay for the fiber mesh that's in that sidewalk. All of those little, I don't want to say nitpick, but those little items, if it's not specifically called for in that prices to include, that's where you're leaving open cracks for a contractor. Crack a sidewalk, bad analogy. But you're opening doors for a contractor to be able to say, hey, I'm gonna bid a little bit more on this. And so that's the way I like to review a set of plans, as if I'm the contractor, I'm putting an estimate together that, okay, I'm gonna build this, and yeah, that's included, that's not included. So, and we make sure that that's in the contract, not just on the plans, but in the bid specs, in the like I said, the prices to include it. I'm a big proponent of the prices to include.
And MEP wise, I mean, I showed you this before. This is probably a dozen pages of checklist items. So I mean, they're not big items, but they're things that you don't want to overlook on a drawing set, like the details of the design. And so until I go through every one of those and either put NA, not applicable, or check, it's done, I won't release those drawings for bid for construction. Because again, these detailed items protect, just as Pete was saying, protect missing scope. So it's a deep dive, to Bill's point, and very focused on what is shown and what could potentially be not be a change order.
Let me rephrase Gary's question a little bit, because I think I might know where you're really going with that. If there were concerns that Bowen's plans were not complete or not high quality, how quick would it take you to identify that? Or when would you report that? Is that really what you're?
It's about,
That's within our first review. That's within a week to 10 days. And it'll be a detailed explanation, not just why we think it is. It will be lists and lists and lists of deficiencies.
So if you felt Bowen's plans were inaccurate or incomplete or something like that, you would know within a week to 10 days.
Absolutely.
Is that more what you're looking?
We'll say 20 days. Based on-
The 21.
I'm confident, a week to 10 days. Not a pre-construction. We're good.
For me, that here, it's explain your process when a field problem arises and needs owner input to resolve. And I think Dan did a nice job explaining that one already too. So,
Like we talked about, mostly the answers.
Yeah.
We're looking at it on an exception basis. Lane, you're up on number 12.
Already been answered.
should read it at least. Yeah.
Please.
Laketran is expecting a new full-time person. One is there. Laketran is expecting a near full-time person to be on site during the construction. What tasks and responsibilities will that person have? Well, you've covered that pretty well, but if you've got more of an answer, go ahead.
We stand on what we've said already.
Thank you.
Donna, number 13.
If the contractor is not following the plans or specifications, how will your field representative react?
Danny?
Not well. No, it'll be stop what you're doing, bring the proper people over, supervisor, general contractor, here's what I'm seeing, this isn't right. We need to stop this and get it corrected immediately.
Number 14 is how many hours per week would your firm be on site? I think you beat that one up pretty good. Do you have any questions on that? 15.
I'll ask you. I'm not sure what the meaning behind it is, so maybe you'll have to help me a little bit here, Ben, but how will you be a strong advocate for Laketran?
That goes back to our public communication. You're the board, you're the people that get the calls. We're the people that are going to have the ammunition for either in front of that call or else be able to answer for you. You have one source to go to. I'm a project manager. If you have any problems, you report it to us. It's going to be taken care of. That is our job. Your job is not to worry about the day in and day out. Your job is to make administrative decisions and, more importantly, authorize payment of contractors and consultants.
Number 16, Lane.
Safety is high priority for Laketran, and you can rest assured that's the case. We have excellent, if not almost too good of a safety in our employees and stuff. We have a very good set of people that are responsible for making sure that everything is done safe as possible. We have very little issues with or bus accidents, and it's amazing how well that Laketran does in that area of safety. So our question is, what would you do if workers were not using the necessary safety equipment? And how would you ensure the safety of the public and Laketran employees around construction zones?
Well, I think I've answered that. We're gonna have a plan in place. We're gonna have laydown, we're gonna have routing, we're gonna have where the contractor's allowed to be, where they're not, areas that need to be remain open. And it'll be CT's job to make sure that those protocols are followed.
Okay, thanks.
Donna, you get the last one.
Why is your firm the best for this job?
Do we really have to answer that? If we haven't proven to you we're the best firm, then we apologize for wasting your time. I can't say enough good things about these guys around me. I've worked with them. I hired him. We were a lot younger back then. Tim, he came to tech after I knew tech. These are the guys I trust. I trust them with my family. And you have to trust us that we can do this for you. And that's all I can say.
Anybody have any additional questions, comments for the good of the order?
Thank you for your time.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us here. We do appreciate the opportunity to discuss this project, and we wish you well.
Thank you.
You guys know Bill in.
That's probably kind of civil. Landing,
What's the question?
the Bill Landing. You're, yeah,
I haven't, no.
okay. Because Bill was left the company when I started there. I just know the sons.
Well,
Bill Benfield,
oh, I've been yelled at him because he's a council. Yeah, resident complaints.
Dating yourself there.
I was gonna say Tamarack's a beautiful course.
And somebody came along with a bandy
That's hilarious. When we see him, we'll ask him if he's how he's doing with his game. Hopefully it's improved. Again, thank you again.
Thanks.
All right. Erase it and use it for something functional. Thank you again.
Thanks. Gary, just make sure you turn your thing on for YouTube. YouTube is on now, so make sure you.
Okay, so that was interesting. We're to the old business section. Is there any old business to discuss? How about new business? Anybody have any new business? If not, may I have a motion for adjournment?
Next meeting is tomorrow, right?
Yes, next meeting is
Yes,
tomorrow.
yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So,
Thank you. May I have a second? Second. Trudy, could you call the roll call, please?
McNamee.
yes.
Sheets.
Yes.
Swanson.
Yes,
Zibble.
Yes.
thank you all.
Yeah, thanks.